Welcome to Equipped for Impact, the podcast designed to help Christian parents, leaders, and educators raise up the next generation to stand firm in their faith and influence their world for Christ. We're your hosts. I'm Nate.
And I'm Lewis.
So let's get started with episode 0. So episode 0 is the first episode of a podcast. This is not really a full episode, but we're just wanting to introduce to you as the listeners who we are, what this podcast is all about. So Lewis, I guess that's really the first question. Like, what is this podcast even about?
Nate, you and I are both dads, and we're both raising girls in this crazy world, right?
Yep.
And so I've come to realize that parenting is hard. And it's not just about raising well-behaved kids. It's not just about making disciples. God has given us as parents the primary responsibility of shaping the next generation for His glory. Because the truth is that the world is discipling our kids every day.
Yeah, that's right.
Like if we're not doing it, somebody is. And the truth is that the world is. And so they're being discipled through media, whether it's TV, YouTube, whether it's social media, TikTok, whether it's through the culture, what they see, what they read, what they listen to. And it's happening through education. So whether they attend a Christian school or whether they're in public school, somebody is discipling our kids. And as Christian parents, we need to understand that there is an intentionality that comes with discipling them with a biblical foundation. And so if you're a Christian parent and you care about discipling your kids, it's important to understand that we have a God-ordained responsibility.
Yeah. I think that's so important. Just thinking about how it's those kind of underlying currents of culture and media and whatnot that really, in some ways, make the biggest impact on our children. And so that's just a scary thought to think about, you know, that it's coming at them, and the world is so intentional about it, but so like sneaky, to think about the ways that they sneak in some of these ideas. I mean, here at our school, we talk a lot about worldview, and worldview is just baked into so many different things. And you think about it, like even little kids shows, I'll be, listening while my kids are watching, and I just think about like, man, let's stop and analyze the worldview of this like Disney song. And it's not a thing I'm going to have a conversation, I'm not going to ask that direct question to my 8-year-old, but it's the idea of, I need the tools to be able to have that counter formation in my daughter's lives. And I know a lot of parents are looking for that. I guess that really brings up our second question. Who is this podcast for?
Well, I think it's for everybody, but I think specifically if you're a Christian parent and you're trying to figure out how to raise godly children, because if you're like me, I'm a first-time parent, right? Like I've never done this before, and so every year
with every new phase of life,
it's brand new, right? So when my oldest daughter was born, like it was the first time I was ever a dad, and then when she became a toddler, it was the first time I was ever a dad of a toddler, and then now we've entered the teenage years, and it's the first time I've ever been a dad to a teenage girl, and so like we're just figuring this out as we go along, and so if you're a parent, specifically if you're a Christian parent and you're trying to raise godly children, if you're a church leader, if you're a pastor, if you're a senior pastor, if you're a youth pastor, a children's pastor, and you have a heart for influencing young hearts and minds, if you're an educator, and I don't mean just a Christian educator, like if you just care about kids in general and you have a desire to influence their minds, their hearts, then this podcast for you. And then, I said everyone earlier, because the truth is that all of us should be discipling. If you're a Christian, you have a mandate from God to be discipling. And so if you're passionate about biblical discipleship and you have a passion about discipling people, then this podcast is probably going to be important for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's so important to just have those tools. I mean, that's why we're calling this podcast Equipped for Impact, right? Yeah. We need the tools in the toolbox so that we are equipped to send out our children, send out our students so that they can impact their world for Christ, which is, really my heart. I know it's your heart too. So you guys as listeners, here's some of the things you can expect. Biblical wisdom. We're both pastors. We're both educators. We work in a Christian school, and we come back to the Bible, and we want that biblical wisdom for parenting, and have the practical insights for raising children who love and follow Christ. So that's going to be kind of the bedrock of where we're going. We're going to talk about practical issues, navigating cultural challenges. There's going to be things that come up, things change. TikTok is on the scene, and then it goes away for 24 hours, and then it's back again, and who knows what the next thing's going to be. But navigating those cultural challenges with the tools from the biblical wisdom, we're going to address some of those things, and just figuring out how to disciple our children at home. We'll talk through how we can be equipped to live out our faith daily as families, because that's the first unit that God created. He created Adam and Eve and started the family. He initiated that family unit, and so we're going to talk about that. And then there's going to be encouragement. Like, this is hard. It is so hard. Yeah. And so just encouraging Christian leaders, educators, parents, we want to support you all as you shape the next generation to live out their faith for Christ. So that's what you can expect here in this format.
And we're going to try to do it in a format that's quick, right? Like, we're not going to take a lot of your time, because we live in a soundbite world. And so we also know, parents, you're busy, right? And so we're going to try to pack it all in and make it something that's relevant to you, so that you can listen to it with your children. You can listen to it on your own. And here's the truth. You can also expect like brutal honesty. Like, Nate and I, we're not perfect. And I think Nate would agree that I know me personally, I've messed up as a dad so many times. And sometimes, like, I look back and I think, like, I wish I would have done something different. Like, honestly, I wish this podcast would have existed when I was just starting off, right? Yep. Because even though I've been a pastor, even though I've been involved in Christian education for a long time now, I recognize that there's times even in my own home where I don't meet up to what I'm saying. And so some of it's also going to be just hard truths that we're working through. So definitely you can expect some honesty, and you can, and I would say something not to expect is don't expect for us to have all the answers, and definitely don't expect perfection, because that's not who we are.
Yep, that's exactly right. And we'd love to hear from you all. You can send in your questions. We're still figuring out even this podcasting thing. So once we figure out how we're going to host everything and get it out there, we'll have a way for you guys to send in questions too, because we want to work through the ideas, and we're going to bring in, it's not just going to be the two of us. We'll bring in, other pastors and Bible teachers and parents even that have more experience than you and I, to help, bring this conversation along and give us some great ideas. So obviously you all know where to listen to this, because you're listening to us right now. But you can share this with your friends, other parents, other people who have a passion for discipling the next generation, so that they can find us too, and they can be equipped for impact. So as we close out this first episode 0, Lewis, any last words you have for us?
Let me just give you some encouragement. I mentioned earlier that being a parent is hard. Raising the next generation for Christ is the most important work we will ever do as parents. And so let's do it with wisdom, let's do it with intentionality, and let's do it with faith.
That's right. So be sure to subscribe and share this podcast with other parents and leaders who want to be equipped for impact, and we can do this work together. Thanks for listening. I'm excited to walk this journey with you. See you next time on Equipped for Impact.